Well, I gotta tell you, this is my kind of day. Look at that out there. It's, I don't know, about 8 o'clock in the morning. I've been out here for a little bit, and it is gonna be beautiful. We've had this beautiful stretch of unseasonably warm weather, and today is gonna be the nicest of the string of, I think it's been 3 days in a row here where it's been, if not 80, then almost 80 in April. And it's gonna be 84 degrees and sunny today. And then by Monday, it's gonna be spitting snow and 42 or 41, I think is the high. Alas, we're gonna take advantage of it. Luckily, it's the weekend, so I'm in perfect welding and fabricating clothes. You know, tank top and shorts, because safety first. And you can see out there, I've got some things set up. Let me show you. Let me turn you around. I'll show you what we got. So I did some prepping this morning. You can see I've got the skid steer back this weekend, and I moved the frame. It's no longer level, but that's okay for what we're doing today. We don't need it level. And I have, so you can see, I've got the rear axle out of the barn. It's tucked back there, sitting on the ground, waiting for the forks to lift it into place. All prepped, you know, as you saw last week if you watched the video. All the old spring perches and shock mounts are gone. It's all needle scaled and ready to rock, ready to go in. I've got my front axle sitting here, ready to go in. I've got two of my, so these are my 3-leaf front leaf springs that I put on to my old 3500HD. We need these 3-leaf packs to support the weight of that Cummins and the Fuller. So you saw where I took off this front axle out of the 98 frame last weekend. So I've got new bushings pressed into, I had that done, farmed that one out. New bushings pressed into there with bolts, and I've got a box with new front hangers and new U-bolts. So we're ready to bolt that into place. And then back here, I've got the bushings pressed into the infamous 4-link kit. So that's all ready to rock. And we've got spring hangers, or not spring hangers, 4-link hangers ready to weld in. We've got some steel ready to fabricate hangers for those for that 4-link kit. There's our front end parts. Got paid a little extra and got that. Love it. When I compared it to the Chinese ones, they had much thicker, much better fabrication, worth the $7 a piece, and freshly bent new U-bolts. So we're ready to rock. All right, well, as you saw there, the front axle is back in, bolted in. My U-bolts are a little long, but I measured it that way because, you know, we don't want the U-bolts to be short. So those can always be cut off or torched off later. We'll get everything final assembled before we worry about anything like that. Yes, I know I put the wheels on backwards. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing and why I put that chain on the tie rod is because my blasting guy is giving me a hell of a deal on this to blast this frame, so I don't have to deal with it. I like sandblasting about as much as I like doing drywall. So yeah, not very much. And he's gonna do it for dirt cheap. So I'm prepping this for him. Where I'm gonna take it up with that machine on the gooseneck as a rolling chassis. And so I turn the wheels inside out so they have more access to the hub ends. They're probably gonna pull them anyway, to be honest with you, because I'm probably gonna pay them to blast 6 wheels for me too. So, but regardless, it's easier if they want to do the chassis first and then pull the wheels, whatever. And I measured it. You saw me measure it there. It does fit on the trailer barely. It'll be over the rub rails, you know, hanging over into the rub rails, but it's 98 inches wide. So trailer's 102, so we're good to go. So I am on now to measuring and starting to work on my 4-link brackets. So here's stage 1 of the rear. The rear 4-link plates. So I used 2 existing holes. One's covered up by that magnet, but 2 existing 1/2-inch holes. I marked those on the truck, measured back up to the front of the frame to verify that everything was square and at the same exact point. We do have obviously adjustability in this 4-link kit, but we want to start off in the right spot. So drilled those 2 holes, marked and drilled those 2 holes. Then I went back to the truck and clamped them in place, and I marked to make sure that I didn't come into contact with any existing frame holes. There's a couple other 1/2-inch holes that are only through the outer frame. I didn't want to deal with those, so make sure those are out of the way, and then made sure we were generally clamping as much of the plate as we can. Now, you guys know how we roll around here. We use what we got and we make it make sense. So I had exactly 6 remaining fine thread frame bolts left over from the L9000, and then I had 2 in each plate. So guess what? We're gonna end up with 5 bolts. 3 9/16 bolts and 2 1/2-inch bolts holding each frame plate onto the frame. I think that's more than enough for what we're dealing with. So what I'm doing now, this one I've already done. I went through and laid out, I just rough marked where I wanted them, and then I cleaned them up and got exact measurements with the speed square in here on the bench. But I'm pre-drilling these 9/16 holes in the plate, and then we're going to go back. We'll bolt the 1/2-inch bolts back in and get this thing set exactly where we want it, and then I'll have nice clean metal that I can hang the mag drill off onto, and then we will drill through our double frame for our 9/16 bolts. And once we know we've got everything drilled and set, then we'll come back and fabricate the mounts, because obviously we're beefing up. It's not just going to be 1/4-inch plate hanging down. So rest assured, we're going to beef the crap out of that. We'll weld the 4-link bar, the bar mounts from Nfamus will get welded on, and then all of my reinforcement will get welded in. Once that's all set and done, then we will go back through and we'll get some chassis saver on the part of the chassis that's going to be covered up by these plates, and we'll get some paint, probably maybe just chassis saver to be honest with you, on the back side of these plates. Then we can bolt everything on permanently. Then comes the fun part of putting the 4-link bars on and getting that axle lifted into place and test fitting and seeing so we can get our bars tacked onto the axle, and then we can bolt it together and watch it move. Anyway, so here we go. Let's get this thing drilled. And there we go. All right, there we go. There's our holes drilled through a triple plate. There's the other side all drilled. So now what we're gonna do is, while these are perfectly in place, I'm gonna tack in, there's gonna be a piece of bar that goes right there. So it'll be level with the bottom of the frame, you know, parallel with the bottom of the frame, and across the whole width of this plate. So we're gonna tack that in on both sides. That way we know exactly where that crossover point is, because then what's going to happen is on the bottom of this plate, we're going to, I'm not sure yet. I'll tell you when I build it. On the top, we're going to box this one way or the other on the outside. On the bottom, I'm going to box it as well. I just haven't decided. I gotta lay those brackets over there and back on and get those tacked in before I make my determination on where that box sits in a plane from side to side. But regardless, we'll get those, we'll get the drilling apparatus out of the way here, and then we'll get some plates cut, some 1/4-inch bar cut, and we'll tack those in, and then we can move into the barn and work on the bench for the rest of this. Okay, so the frame plates are tacked in, and so this would be my passenger side. These link bar brackets are directional. There's this notch out to allow the bars to come through. So that's my leading edge. I just put a mark just so I don't get confused on my plates, which one's which, you know, which side is which. I guess that's obvious now that I welded this, but anyway, we're just thinking ahead, extra careful. So I gotta take a couple of other quick measurements to get this perfect, but this is ready to burn in. So I'm gonna burn this completely in, and then we'll start building our bracketing. Okay, well, we got the first one done. So it's a little hot still, but that's how it's gonna sit. So what I did was I offset, that's 1.5 bar. I offset that halfway. So this upper frame portion is fully boxed on the outside of the frame. And then what that does is that gives me a cross weld right there that ties into this. That's the only one that I stitch welded. I saw no reason, and I kind of want a little bit of drainage right there. But I saw there wasn't a reason to full weld that. That's really just a locating tab almost. It's helping out the bolts a little bit. But, you know, this gives it some rigidity. You know, obviously this bracket itself is adding rigidity to that lower point, but this gives it from not wanting to have some, and really what I should do is probably, just for looks, maybe put a 45 cut there. We can do that later. I did use flux core because I'm welding with a 110 MIG. I need all the heat I can get. This isn't a tiny 110 MIG. You know, it's a 135 amp. It's decent, but it's still, you know, it's rated for 1/4 inch only with flux core. So it's rated up to 5/16 as long as you're using flux core. But with, as you can see here, if I were using gas shielded MIG with 75% argon, we're only in 14 to 12 gauge range, so we don't even touch 3/16. So only flux core is good up to 5/16. So, you know, obviously you can turn up the heat on gas welding and make it work, but obviously for something like this, I think we're safer just to follow the directions. So yeah, that one's done. I'm gonna let it cool down. I'm honestly not even probably gonna clean these welds up and tack them because this whole thing's getting sandblasted. So the only ones I'll do is the ones that are gonna be hidden. So yeah, that's that. All right, well, there's everything that got sandwiched got painted, and there's our 4-link brackets. Obviously I would love to weld a crossbar to tie those lower ones together, but you know, there's kind of got to be a drive shaft there, so not much we can do there. But yeah, everything's lined up. good. Ready for the links. right, so you guys just saw me move the rolling chassis over out of the way, and while I had the machine, I figured why not bring the cab up here. I actually screwed up though. I need to block it underneath the cab because I need to cut the front of the frame section off first. Then I'll unbolt, and once that's out of the way, I'll unbolt the cab from the frame. Then I can come in from the front, so I placed it that way, and lift the cab off. You have to lift the cab from the front because the firewall end is the heavy end. Try to lift it from back here, it's just going to tip right off the forks. So, although with those fork extensions I use, it might work, but regardless, those are a little big for squeezing in there anyway. So, cab's up here. That's for a project for another day. We're not dealing with that today. Here, in order to get I did go ahead and order bag brackets and airbags. They'll be here in a few days. But in order to get ride height somewhat predetermined, I need, and my panhard bar depends on that. I've not even thought about the panhard bar yet. I need to get that engine sitting in. So that's what we're going to tackle right now. We got a machine. We got this engine that's been sitting here. I'm going to get it off this stand. We'll get it lifted up in the air. We'll get it off the stand and unbolted. We'll set it in, and then I can mark the holes for those two front mounts that I haven't drilled yet, and we'll let that rest of suspension, and that'll determine actually both of my panhard bars, front and rear, help me set ride height and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna pull off that exhaust because it might well be in the way. We'll get everything unbolted. We'll get it pulled over here and get ready for the forks to be able to lift it up. And yeah, I'll set this thing in. It's exciting. Okay, well, engine's in the air. Need to get the bell housing on because that's where the mounts are. I have been hoping to reuse the old mounts. Those were a set of energy suspension, just universal bushings I had bought. The original mounts I put on the engine back in 2014 failed almost immediately, just too weak for the torque that this thing was applying to them. So these were polyurethane for energy suspension, like I said, and they held up great. They're actually still in great shape, just they were seized to the bushings and generally in bad shape. So new set was $30, so I got a set coming. For today we're going to set this in without mounts just to get holes lined up and located. I power washed this bell housing. It could use some paint, but I just don't have time to deal with that today. Got rain coming and I'm trying to get done with this stuff so I can free up the barn for other things. So I'm just going to bolt this on. What I noticed is on this face where it bolts to the block, there was what appeared to be silicone. I don't know why. It's not a gasketed surface. So, but I highly doubt this was ever off. So I'm going to put some silicone back on. I mean, can't hurt anything. So got all my bolts. We're going to get this on, and I think I'm going to go ahead and hang the flywheel in the clutch as well because it's easy to do right now. So we might as well just get her in and get her done. And then when I'm finished, I think we'll leave the engine in the frame for this week. I'll tarp it off, and then once the frame goes to blast, we'll find a spot in the barn or outside here and set it on an old tire or something and call it good. But because I'm not going to go through the trouble of taking all this back off so I can use my engine stand. That thing has served its purpose. We're done with it. I'll store it just in case I ever need to use it again, but there's no reason to scrap that. But regardless, I'm gonna get this on, like I say, and then flywheel and clutch, and then we'll be able to drop this thing in the frame. All right, there we go. It wasn't much fun, but bell housing, flywheel, and clutch are on. And yeah. Now, if you guys wonder too, that's not a brand new clutch, but it has, just like the transmission has, I'd be surprised if it had 1,000 miles on it. It was brand new when I replaced the transmission, so that's why I'm doing used parts on that, saving the $700-800 for that clutch kit. So let's get her set in there and see what she looks like. All right, well, it's in. Unfortunately, these rear motor mounts are wrong. I was worried purely because I was measuring off a frame that had been cut and mounts that had been honestly, you know, built at different times long ago with poor fabrication skills. So anyway, it's pretty close front to back. It's a hair too far back. I need to come back forward a little bit, but it sits where it needs to sit. We're just gonna have to, I'm gonna play with placement and probably honestly use the same mounts and just drill new holes here and play with the plates on this. See what I come up with, but got some ideas there. So regardless, it's in. We now can see where the front suspension is going to sit, and you know, you can see I've got some clearance on that panhard bar, but I just don't think I can put it up into its stock location, just because we go over the right bump, we're going to have oil pan impact. So you know, we've got about 3 to 4 inches of room here before the steering, before the tie rod impacts the oil pan, and I just don't want to put this any closer. So we'll do the same thing we did on the other truck, is we'll just fab some legs to drop this down and have it sitting, which is not a bad thing to have it sitting horizontal, you know, when it's at ride height. So, and obviously this is going to be very close to ride height. She'll still sink a hair more, just with more weight on it, but not much, especially not with these 3-leaf packs. That chunk of weight right there is about as much as it's going to sink. So I'm running out of time. You can see we got storms coming. It's going to rain today, so I don't want to get into a whole lot more. I've got all next weekend to play with this. We'll get this motor mount situation figured out. Is going to be an order of business. Once that's done, we will get the engine back out, honestly, and set it off to the side. And then we're already out. And then we'll deal with the panhard bar extension up here. We'll do panhard bar complete out back and get that rear axle aligned where we want it. We'll have bag mounts and airbags by then, so we can get all that complete. And once that's all done, we'll see if we have time to get that cab off and fabricate the rear cab mounts as well. That could easily be done after it goes to blast. Not sure how I want to tackle that. We'll see how timing plays out and everything else. All right, guys, well, that is going to just about do it for today's video. As I said, I've got a bunch of parts ordered, engine mounts, airbags, bag mount kits. I got to get on right now and look at shocks and shock mounts. So to try to put this all into one video, quite frankly, it's just going to be a little long. So I'm going to give you what I got now, and we're going to just break this up into 2 parts to get this rear suspension wrapped up. So as you can see, the Lodestar's back in the barn. The project's outside, and well, it was 80 degrees today. Now it's raining and windy. It's down to about 55 already, and it's not even dark yet, and it's going to snow tomorrow. So that's really cool. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and yeah, y'all have a great week. We'll see you.